Come on, Livingston, we're gonna go on and on and on. Together we can make it. We're gonna go on and on and on. Come on, Livingston.
Knocks it through. Mullen bursting into the box. Josh Mullen.
Together we can make it.
Mullen's ball across. It's turned in. It's Pittman who's got it. Livingston leads.
Can they get the ball back in? O'Brien.
Lead! And Livingston have the lead.
Man, you score.
If we march to
The full-time whistle blows and David Hayes celebrates. And the Livingston fans join in exultation.
come on, Livingston.
Livingston have the lead against Rangers, and they are certainly rising to a few occasions on their return to the top flight in Scotland.
Hello and welcome back to Talk Livi, the podcast dedicated to everything Livingston Football Club and Scottish football. My name's Andy, and today I'm joined by Ewan and Angus. Ewan, we'll start with you. How are you doing? How's your week been?
It's been all right, aye. Seems like ages since we last had a game, but improved performance this afternoon, but sadly wasn't a result to match it. But I'm sure we'll dive into that on the podcast today.
Angus, what about yourself? Has your week been pretty good? You've been keeping busy?
Yeah, just the usual. Try to keep occupied during lockdown, and very much the same as you. And feeling as if like it's been ages since we've played. And yeah, of course we'll dive into the frustrations from today as well. But yeah, all good all round.
And it's also been ages since we actually had 3 or 4 years on. Callum misses out again, obviously. He might still be at the ground doing interviews and things. God knows I'm back this week. It's good to be back, boys. Thanks for welcoming me back. There's nothing I love more than talking about defeat for Livingston. So I'm really excited for this one.
I mean, we're not that delighted that you're back, to be totally honest with you. But you know, you said you were available, so you know, might as well invite you along.
Well, listen, I feel like I'm the glue that holds this podcast together. That's, you know.
Can we point out, Angus, right, we're both in a chat and Andy was like, we only bothered doing one last week. Angus can back me up on that. So I think you'll find me and Angus are kind of holding the ship together here.
I'm just fed up talking about defeats, to be honest, but never mind, these things happen, But obviously, you can listen to this episode and all our other episodes on your preferred podcast streaming sites. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and YouTube, plus loads more. So just search Talk Livi. Follow us and subscribe if you can, so you won't miss another episode. It's a short one this week as we look back at another disappointing afternoon for the Lions, as despite a much improved performance, we fell to a 2-1 defeat to Aberdeen. And finally, we'll discuss our individual Premiership teams of the season. I'm sure that's going to heighten up a little bit of debate on the podcast this week.
It was another disappointing afternoon for the Lions as Stephen Glass's Dons came away from the spaghetti head with all 3 points. Lads, what were our thoughts on the game? Angus, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I have to say that very similar to the last game that we played Aberdeen. I think that we were very good in spells. The way that we play on the ball, especially in the first half, I think we were the better team. Aberdeen probably had the better of chances, but we were definitely in more control of the possession, knocking the ball quite nicely. But obviously going into the second half, we become slack in defending. McLennan runs into the box unmarked, heads it, and Striek makes an absolutely tremendous save but there's only so much you can do when he's on the ground. The ball falls back to Hendry to put it into the net. And then obviously Aberdeen go and make it 2-0, which is very disappointing. I think for Livingston this entire game, obviously mentioned how we're knocking the ball quite nicely. It was just incredibly frustrating that we'd get to the final third and we just seemed to, not know what to do. And that's what I feel has cost us so much today, is because we've had plenty of the ball, we've had plenty of chances in good areas, but we've hesitated or we've made the wrong decision. We could have shot or we could have crossed the ball in. Instead, we've done like a fake and run into a crowd of players, and it's really not productive in that way. And it's no surprise that the one time that we actually, did put pressure on Aberdeen and put something in the box to go and attack, that we got a goal from it, and a great goal in saying so as well. And Jace Kabaya with an absolute tremendous delivery and Jet there to get another goal. What a run of form that he's been on. But ultimately, it wouldn't be enough for us to get back into the game. Obviously, there's maybe a few contentious decisions from the referee, possibly the linesman as well. I don't think he had a great game, but coming away from this match, I'm just like, how have we lost this? I don't think we should have been on the losing end of this game at all. Did we do enough to win it considering the defensive mishaps? Possibly not, but I really think we need to be a whole lot braver. We're no longer that side who can soak up that pressure and we can, hold on to. We can get a goal and hold on to it for the rest of the game. We're not that same team anymore. We need to be braver going forward, because it's happened too many times now where we're trying to fight back into games, but we don't have enough. We need players who are going to take that chance. I mean, the amount of times that Craig Sibbald gets the ball, Scott Pittman, Jason Holt get it on the edge of the box, and they don't even look up to have can I have a shot on goal here? It's not good enough. And the amount of times that we get into those areas and just run into traffic and squander great opportunities isn't good enough. And I think that's where most of my frustration is coming from, is if we're a wee bit bolder and braver in those situations, you never know in that first half that we could have, put the game to bed. We could have been a couple of goals up, but we've got to learn from it and we've got to work on it. But I don't even feel that this is a kind of recent kind of thing that's happening for us. We've got to see what happens. But yeah, incredibly disappointing and frustrating. But I will have to echo that the performance itself, for the most part, was pretty decent.
Yeah, I think we've probably played a lot worse this season and picked up points or picked up wins. But it's the same old story. Defensively, very poor. I agree with you, Angus. I think in recent weeks, probably, in fact, not even recent weeks, probably since the league game against St Johnstone where they ended our run, we seem to have gone into our shell a little bit. We are lacking that sort of bravery, in that 16-game unbeaten run. We were taking players on, we were taking chances on the ball. We've stopped doing that. It's almost like nerves have kicked into the squad a little bit, when really they shouldn't be now, because we're top six, we're comfortable. The players should be playing with a wee bit of freedom, but it's almost like they're afraid to make a mistake rather than take the game to the opposition. Like I said at the start, though, we have played a lot worse and picked up points, picked up wins. I didn't think we were bad at all in the game. But again, it's defensive lapses and it's happening all too often just now, and it's concerning. Again, it almost goes back to the start of the season for me. We were defensively really poor. We weren't scoring many goals. The good thing is we're still creating chances. We created chances against Aberdeen there, but not clear cut. For me, Aberdeen probably edged it on chances, but I feel like we played better with the ball. It was almost a Livingston-esque performance for Aberdeen for me. They had less of the ball, but they took their chances when they came along, and we didn't. And to touch on the referee, I read there that was his third game reffing at this level, and it showed 8 yellow cards and what wasn't a nasty game. Probably missed a red card. It looked like he missed a pretty clear penalty at the end. Some numerous baffling decisions for corner kicks. Obviously, the result didn't hinge on the referee at the end of it. You and you'll probably disagree because I know what you're going to talk about, but it showed that the referee lacked that sort of little bit of experience in this game, because some baffling decisions to say the least. But you know what, we played well, the results haven't came, and I go back to what I said a few weeks ago, that we seem to be the whipping boys of the top six now, and unfortunately I feel like I'm being proven right a little bit here. Still can't see us where our next point's coming from. We've got Rangers and St Johnstone. I struggle to see us picking up anything for there. But if we go out the season having played the same way as what we did against Aberdeen, I'll be quite pleased, because we definitely showed there's a bit about us. We just need to cut out those mistakes. And I'm sure the management team are already looking at options for next season in terms of bringing players in to help us with that, because defensively I think it's fair to say that we haven't been anywhere near as good as what we have been in previous seasons this season.
I think the minimum we deserved from the game was a point. I think, as both of you touched on, I think with the ball, first half in particular, I think we looked really in control of the game. I would probably say that Aberdeen created the better chances in the first half. I think, Striget's pulled off a good save from Hendry. Ferguson's had a free header as well, which he should do better with. But flip side of that is we've created opportunities. Jets had one cleared off the line. Poplatnik, when McLennan played him through, it was a great chance as well. And I think we looked really comfortable in the game. But the Achilles heel for me all season, and it really annoys me when you hear pundits talk about us being this great team at set pieces, both attacking and defending, when actually we've got one of the worst records in the league this season for it. And once again, it's a cross ball yet again, and it's just slack. It's just moments of a lack of concentration. The angle you see from behind the faraway goal, Sibbald's running with McLennan and then just stops on the edge of the box, and McLennan ghosts into the 6-yard box for a free header. As you said, it's a fantastic save by Max, but it shouldn't be coming to that. Sibbald should just be following his man into the box for me, and it's a really sloppy goal. And again, I think after that, we took the game by the scruff of the neck. We were struggling to kind of open Aberdeen up at that point, and then they've hit us on the counter attack. And again, for me, it's just a bit punchless. I think we could stop the attack earlier than we did. And, again, we've had opportunities, in the second half to get back in the game. Fantastic goal from our point of view. Great ball by Kabaya. Great bit of vision by Kabaya to spot Jet. And I guess we were just chatting about goal of the season. Well, Jet's just put another one in the pecking order for goal of the season with that one. It's a fantastic finish on his weak foot. And again, I thought Jet had a really good game. I'll echo what I said last week. Imagine if we had reserve football to get him up to speed quicker at the start of the season. Think of the player that we could have had, for at least 6-7 months of the season. It's such a shame that his contract's coming to an end at this point, because he could have been a big asset going forward for next year. I know you touched on it, Andy, but the refereeing was appalling. I thought the referee lost control of the game as soon as he didn't dish out a red card to McLennan. I think it's a clear red card. There's red cards that get given for lesser reactions than McLennan's one. It's a clear kick out. I'm not disputing that Sibbald should get booked for the original foul, but it is a clear kick out from McLennan, and he should be sent off. And then, I haven't seen the incidents back for the penalty shouts, but the Considine one, the fact that just about every Livingston player is claiming for it, and to be honest, the Aberdeen players look pretty sheepish, pardon the pun, at the decision as well, suggested that it was almost stick-on penalty. And, as you say, Andy, I mean, he's dished out eight yellow cards, in a game that wasn't even that. I think he made it into a bit of a feisty game by some of the decisions he made. I mean, he gave an offside for an Aberdeen player heading the ball clear from a corner, and a Livi player picked up the ball. There was an offside given. The officiating was awful. But, I think it's a much improved overall performance from the Hibs game. Where we didn't turn up for 45 minutes at Easter Road. And as you say, if we can play like that in our last two games, there's an opportunity to get points. And I think I heard Dave Black kind of say at the tail end of the game today that 5th place is still in our hands. If we match St Johnstone's result in the next round of fixtures, and then we're going to McDermott Park on the final day. So it is still in our hands, but as you say, we just seem to have hit a bit of a wall, especially kind of since that St Johnstone defeat you mentioned, and it's going to be difficult. I mean, Rangers are going to try and go the season unbeaten, so any points against Rangers a week on Wednesday is going to be a bonus point, but it's frustrating because I think we deserve more out of the game than we got today.
I think that kind of what makes it more frustrating is that we've played Aberdeen and we've played Hibs in these recent weeks. Today, we definitely didn't deserve to get beat. The game against Hibs, we deserved to get beat. The fact that it was only 2-1 though, and we know that we're capable of doing much more. And even today, I think we're capable of doing much more. I think we're a much bigger threat than we were today, than what we're showing. I think we just need that extra bit of confidence that seems to be knocked out of us. And the fact that we are playing these teams and we are, we're staying in the game, we are matching them. It only will take that wee extra bit for us to start, turning these results around against these sort of sides. It's not as if we're going to these games and we're getting absolutely hammered. Like, obviously we got hammered against Celtic, but against like Hibs and that, we were getting hammered off the ball and that, but the scoreline didn't suggest that. We aren't a million miles away from these teams, but we just need to do a lot more. We need to sharpen up at both ends of the pitch, essentially, because it's costing us dearly. And that's why, this kind of run after the unbeaten streak is being so treacherous, is because we all know what we're capable of, and it's very rarely that we're getting totally played off the park. So I don't know, it just seems as if we're in that kind of rut, and in all honesty, waiting for the season to be finished. Like, maybe this is what we need. We need to get away. We need to, fixing things up in the summer, whether that's players leaving and new ones coming in. But yeah, it just seems as if the stuffing's been knocked out of us completely. But it seems as if we're just echoing everything that we're saying in the last weeks, and it's just getting tiresome to an extent. I know it's we're in the top 6, which is of course like a great achievement and all of that, and we want to be in this bit competing with these teams, but just knowing that we are so close and we can do that extra wee bit to make up for it. But just as you guys were saying, obviously we've touched on how Jet was playing really well. Is there anybody else who kind of stands out for you from the performance today?
No, really, to be honest. I mean, I'm struggling. I'm sure you guys probably spoke about this last week after the sort of Hibs game. I just feel like we're changing our system on a weekly basis to suit the opposition. Today was screaming out for width. It was screaming out for pace. We put Mullen on the bench. We had Cabia, who every time he's played now, he's done something. Surely to God, and I said it 2 or 3 weeks ago, now is the time to give this boy some game time. Till we find out if he's capable of making this step up into the league and being a player next season for us, or whether we're going to loan him out. I think we've probably already made that decision, which I think is really harsh. Because every game he's played, he's done something or made an impact in the game. And it's exactly the same in this game. He's put the cross in for Jet to get us back into it. I just feel like, let's stop approaching games and looking at the opposition constantly. Let's play the way we can play, because if it's not broken, let's not try and fix it. We played our way for 16 games, and then we changed it for the cup final. And ever since, we've been chopping and changing to suit the opposition. Last week was another perfect example against Hibs. We changed it to suit Martin Boyle, which never worked, quite frankly. We've changed it again today, taken out basically our attacking threats wide, and it didn't work. Let's get back to Livingston. Let's get back to taking games to the opposition, playing the way we play. And we might see a turnaround in the form. But for me, just now, it's I just think we're changing our style every week, changing the players every week, and it's just not working. Going to your original question, Jet was very good again, and I agree with you, and it's just a pity that we're probably going to lose him now. We've got him fit, and he's going to swan off, and quite rightly so, go and get some more money elsewhere, nearing the sort of his career end almost. Obviously, got 2 or 3 more years to go, but a big pay packet. Maybe this might be his last one, going abroad somewhere. Other than that, I'm struggling. I thought it was a pretty even game. We played pretty well without doing anything spectacular, I don't think. I can't praise any of the defenders because I think the goals were poor. Middle of the park, again, I'm struggling. So yeah, Jet's really the only one for me that stood out today, despite it being a decent performance. You know, I can't really say that there was anybody that was a standout from the game, personally.
We're talking about the defensive frailties. Now, again, it's something I've touched on last couple of seasons. We don't seem to have a really settled back three or back four kind of ever since Gallagher and Halkett left, to be honest. Do you reckon this is causing some issues for us in terms of defensively, that we've not got that unit? Because I was even talking about the goalkeeper situation. I think we need to sort that going into next season. We haven't had a set number one goalkeeper since Liam Kelly. Who have we had? We've had Ross Stewart in his number one. We've had Sarkic in his number one. We've had Robbie McCrory in. We've also had Schofield has played games. And then we've also had Gary Malley, who deserves a mention. League Cup games he has played. And then we've obviously had Max. Now you're talking, that's in 2 seasons. That's a lot of goalkeepers in between the sticks. And then the centre-half pairing, other than Guthrie and Brown, kind of second half of last season, was really settled. This season it's been Fitzwater, it's been Ambrose, it's been Brown. There's just been constant chop and change, and the left back position as well has been a constant chop and change this season. I think going into next season, I think we need to have a settled back 4 or 5 that are almost playing every week to sort out these what are sloppy goals that we're conceding, and it's been a recurring theme throughout the season, in particular from set pieces. I think that's something that really needs addressed. Now, in fairness to Davy listened to one of his press conferences the other week, and it's something he knows is needing improved on. He talked about the boy Obalai at Queen of the South that we were in discussions with, just point blank addressing the fact that he thinks we need a bit more in both boxes, from set plays. So it's clearly something that Davy is aware of, and he is looking at addressing for next season as well. But as I say, it's an incredibly frustrating one because, as you've said, Angus, we're not getting hammered week on week. We're in these games, but we've lost that little bit of ruthlessness that I think we had in that unbeaten run. You actually mentioned it in the group chat. There was 3 or 4 times where Sybil could just go and put his foot through the ball and have a shot from 20 yards, but it was checking back in, coming back into traffic, and then the attack breaks down. We just need to start showing that bit of a ruthless streak that we had in that unbeaten run for me.
I think as well, you mentioned about how the kind of defensive side needs kind of addressed. We need to stop forcing all these centre midfielders into our team, I think, as well. Scott Pittman and Craig Sibbald, for as well as they do play, they don't contribute enough in those final thirds for us to continue putting one of them out wide. And when we've got Alan Forrest, we've got Josh Mullen, we've got Jace Caballo all on the bench, I don't understand why we keep on persisting with these players who aren't. They do the work. They do work off the ball, but when we get into the final third, it's how often do attacks break down because of we mentioned there about Craig Sibbald. He's had a great season and he puts in a good shift, but when we get to that final third, he doesn't have that quality to get on the ball and put that killer pass through or take a shot. More often than not, it just breaks down and it's costing us so much. Likes of Forrest, likes of Kabaya, they are exciting attacking players who will take that chance. If it doesn't come off, then fine, that's no problem. But I would rather somebody try something than us not doing anything at all and then a team breaking and counter-attacking on us. And that's coming from, we talked about Craig Sibbald last week and he was a Player of the Year candidate, and I'll never say anything bad about Scott Pittman either, but we can't just keep on persisting with them because they're likeable players or because they do this kind of shift. We can get players like Josh Mullen and that to do the tracking back and do the running. We don't need just runners in those attacking areas.
Who's the one that drops out then? In that case, or how do you set up to accommodate players? Because it was only a few weeks ago we were raving about Sibbs being on the right hand side and getting the best out of Nicky Devlin. So I think personally, the Sibbald one's harsh that he doesn't create or anything like that. In fact, I think out of him, Bartley and Holt. I'd say he's the most creative of the three.
Bartley and Holt, though, have got completely different roles than Sibbald and Pittman. So if you're talking to me right now, I would prefer to have, in all honesty, I would drop Pittman and I would put Sibbald behind the striker. And then I would have actual wingers out wide, because there isn't an awful lot that's going on going forward. Sibbald has earned the jersey, I would say, in that way that it was kind of work creating the way that he's linked up. But he's not contributing with creating actual clear-cut chances. Yeah, he's maybe linking up with Devlin and playing him through it, but I think a lot of that can be attributed just to Devlin's sheer pace. I don't think we're really talking about, if Sibbald moves from that area, that we still can't get that from Nicky Devlin.
Well, I have a counter argument to that as well. So you take Pittman out, but out of Pittman, Sibbald, Bartley, Holt, okay, Sibbs has got 2 this season, Holt's got 1, Bartley's got 1. I think Pitts has scored more than all of them combined. So in an attacking sense, Pitts is the one that actually offers the most out of all 4 of them.
This is what I'm saying. You keep on comparing Bartley and Holt to them, who have got completely different jobs as like deep line midfielders.
But you said centre midfielders, so they're centre midfielders at the same time.
You're completely taking my point the wrong way. I'm clearly talking about the ones in the final third.
But that's the thing. So Sibbald's played deeper as well. So Sibbald's played where Holt and Bartley play as well.
You can play. I'm not games. I said either what one of them plays deeper. I'm talking about that I want attacking players in the attacking third. That's what it is.
It'd be nice to get a word in edgeways here, boys. So if you're listening, it's nice to hear a little bit of heated debate. We're often criticised for not being critical enough, which I find unfair. But here we are being fairly critical of the team and the players and management and etc. etc. I can see where both of you are coming from on the points you are making.
Watch you don't break that fence.
No, well, I've quite often said this season that I feel Sibbald's been better in that holding place, personally. So one of those players for me would drop out. I think Sibbald in that position offers a little more creativity as well, because he's got that little bit of extra space to turn on the ball and find his passes going forward. I feel like he done that well, especially during the run that we were on. So out the 2 that you drop out, and this is, I'm not going to sit on the fence here. It's a hard one because I really rate Holt, but I can also see what Bartley brings to the team. So I think if I was to drop one, I think Bartley drops out for me, and I think we put Sibbald next to Holt, because I think Holt does a very similar job to Bartley. And then that leaves a position out wide for one of your attacking players. That's just my opinion. But no, it's like I say, it's good to have that bit of debate. What I would say, moving on, because I feel like we're going on and on now. It's just a shame that we're sitting here not having a go at our season, because we're not. We're finished in the top 6. We've got the most points we've had in the 3 years since we returned this season. But I can also see why fans are feeling a bit disappointed and wanting the season to end now, because it is ending on a disappointing note. What I would say is we're one result away from it being a hellier season, and it wouldn't matter if we went on a losing run for the cup final onwards. If we'd won the cup final, we're all sitting here, we couldn't give a fuck about the performances and the results. If we'd won the cup final, we're finishing in the top 6, we've won a cup. But we're looking back at this season now, and we're all kind of not criticising it, but there is criticism to be had because of the way it's ending. But I think we need to put it into some form of realism here. We have finished in the top 6, where I think it's our 2nd or 3rd most points ever in our history in the top flight. So we are criticising. I think it shows the standards that the club's reached over the recent years.
I think that's it, Andy. I think before a ball's kicked, if you asked any Livingston fan, you went, you're going to finish in the top 6 this season, you're going to reach a major cup final, are you going to be happy? And I think every Livingston fan, in my opinion, with a bit of common sense, would say that is an unbelievable season. And I think I think when it comes to the end of this season, there'll be a tinge of frustration with it because this season could have been so much more. I think there could have been more to it. You know, as you say, the cup final was obviously a big frustration, and I think the pattern of the season as well has been, you know, a tad frustrating. But as I say, if you ask the question before a ball's kicked and what we will achieve this season, you know, you have to say it is a successful season. But as I say, I think it's the manner in which it's happened, and I think there's that frustration. There could have been possibly a little bit more out of the season.
As the season draws to a close, we've each hastily put together a Premiership team of the season. Andy, we'll come to you first, because the script has put Angus instead of Andy on. So.
I just realised that when I went to read that. I was like, to be fair, I made the script in 5 minutes. Give us a break, man.
Right, Andy, we'll come to you first. How do you want to do this? Do you want to just go give us your entire 1 to 11, or are we going to go by each position and talk about it first hand?
I think I'll give you my 11 because I feel like I've been slightly thrown under the bus here. When we had a chat before this, where we recorded this, we were talking about just giving our player
Here
of the
is
year.
greeting again, man. Just get on with it. Tell us you're 11, for Christ's sake.
But I had to hastily put together 11, so don't criticise me here if you don't agree. It was just a quick 11 that I came up with. So, in goals, I think it's an absolute no-brainer. I think Robbie McCrory's had a brilliant season for Livingston. No, the boys are laughing at me there. No, I think it's a plainly obvious one. In fact, not just team of the season, but for me, player of the season, which is quite a remarkable feat for a 38-year-old goalkeeper. But Alan McGregor, I think, has been absolutely incredible. I think you'll be hard pushed to find anybody that disagrees. I think we'll soon see what you boys have picked, but I'd be extremely surprised if you haven't gone for him as well. The amount of points he's won for Rangers itself, you know, has probably tipped him over the edge on his own. So for me, not only goalkeeper of the season, but player of the season as well. Next, this is going to be heavily tinged towards Rangers. They are unbeaten in the league, so it's no surprise. So the next one is Tavernier. I think the sheer amount of assists and goals, it's a no-brainer. You know, before he got injured, he was probably on track for player of the season. Then he got injured, and that's probably tipped McGregor over him. Goldson next. I promise it's not all Rangers players, I promise. Goldson, again, a part of that Rangers defence that's just been absolutely unbelievable. I don't know how many goals they've conceded, but it's certainly not been many at all. Next one might surprise you a little bit. It's probably gone on recent form as well. Kerr at St Johnstone. I think you look at St Johnstone's sort of season as a whole, it's been heavily to do with how good they've been defensively and how strong they've been. I think you ask any St Johnstone fan, they will say that Kerr is unlucky not to be involved in the national setup, and I think that's only fair. When you look at their season, it looks like they're going to probably beat us to 5th place. They've beat us, and they've basically ended our season. St Johnstone, they've beat us in the League Cup final. I wouldn't bet against them to go and win the Scottish Cup as well. So I felt like St Johnstone had to be involved in there somehow. Next one, back to Glasgow, Barisic. Again, there's not really much to discuss there. The assists and goals, clean sheets speak for itself. So we then move into the midfield. I think Scotty Arfield, again, probably one of the best players in the league for me. I think everything he does is very classy, creating chances. Very, very good player, still has it, even though he's at that stage of his career as well. Over to Celtic now. I think Turnbull deserves a mention, and I've put him into my midfield. I think arguably Celtic's best player this season. I think it's probably, if you ask Celtic fans, he would be the positive for their season, which has been highly disappointing for them. but I think if you asked them, they'd be delighted with how Turnbull's turned out as a signing. And then last midfielder, Davis at Rangers, again, almost to that similar vein to Arfield. I think just a classy midfielder, class act for Rangers, and a lot of the time he's held it together even when they have been under pressure on those very minimum occasions. But also in Europe, he's performed in Europe, and I think that three in midfield would do an incredible job. So we'll go up front, and I'm going to go to Hibs this time. And I think the sheer mention of Hibs won't be a surprise that Kevin Nisbet is in there. I think the step up from the Championship that he's made has been quite remarkable. He's put us to the sword on a couple of occasions, and his goal scoring record's been excellent, and it's no surprise that there's talks he moves down south, or there was in January, and I can see potentially him moving on in the summer to bigger, better things down south as well. Edward gets in because I still think that he's the best player in the Premiership by a long distance. Probably not quite performed to those levels this season, but I think the potential is there for all to see. And last but not least, the one that everybody loves to hate, Morelos. Again, as much as I don't like him as a person, I think he's got all the ability in the world, and he makes Rangers a better team when he's in there. He just causes havoc for defences. And so that's my 11. And I suppose if we're going to manager of the season, because there's been a lot of topics about that as well, I think there's a clear and obvious one. A lot of people will say Gerrard, but I think Davidson at St Johnstone's just been unbelievable. I think he's got a massive career as a manager in the game. And if he goes on and wins the Scottish Cup, what an unbelievable achievement that'll be for a club outside the Old Firm to go and win a cup double. Just remarkable. So yeah, that's my 1 to 11.
I mean, for someone that was wanting to keep the podcast short today, Jesus Christ, got their birthdays and everything like that in there. But I'll kind of quickly go through mine, and I'll chat about. There's obviously a few that cross over. So Alan McGregor, as you kind of said, it doesn't really need mentioned. I had Tavernier, Goldson and Kerr, similar to you. I think, as you mentioned, St Johnstone's run of form since round about December time has been incredible, and I think Jason Kerr's not going to be at St Johnstone much longer. I think he's had a couple of really good seasons there. I tried to not make it Rangers and Old Firm orientated. I tried to have players from elsewhere. I think a player that's really impressed me at left back this season's the young lad at Hibs, Josh Doig. I think he'll possibly be in the running in terms of the young player of the year. For me, I had Davis in my midfield. I also had Jamie McGrath at St Mirren. I think he's a really classy centre midfielder. I think he's scored quite a few goals for St Mirren this year. A few assists as well. And again, he's attracting a lot of interest from down south, which doesn't surprise me in the slightest. I think he's a really classy midfielder. I had Martin Boyle in as well. I think, is to think at Hibs, when he was at Dundee, he was shown the door by Dundee, and I think he's really progressed as a player at Hibs, and the end product's been added to his game. He's not just a guy that can run. I think he's added goals, he's added assists, which were missing from his game for a few seasons, and I think, again, he was attracting interest earlier in the season before he signed an extension. I'm not surprised why. I think outside of the Old Firm, he's one of the best players in the league, personally. I had Turnbull in as well. I also had Ryan Kent. I think Kent was a player that I probably criticised in previous years for not having enough end product in terms of the type of player he is. For me, a winger or a kind of inside 10 or anything like that, you need to judge them on goals and assists. I don't think he was producing enough of that, but I think this season, again, has been a turning point for him. And I had Nisbet up top. I think the step up from the Championship, he's managed to break into the Scotland squad as well. And he's closing in on almost 20 goals this season. So I think he'll be one that's not in the Scottish Premiership much longer. I think he'll be heading down south as well. But that was my 11. My I'd say my most contentious one's probably the left back, but I was just trying to include that many Rangers players.
For me, I made a wee change. I did have it as a 4-4-2 prior, but I have switched up and I'm now at a 4-3-3. But you guys, in all honesty, have made it quite easy for me because you have talked about basically most of the players who are in my team. So I've got the exact same back five as Andy. I've got McGregor in goals, Tavernier, Barisic as fullbacks, and Kerr and Goldson as the two centre halves. There's not really much more you can say about Rangers. I mean, the fact that they've conceded, I think, are they still only conceded 9 goals this season in the league? You can only, there's no reason why you can really go against putting all these Rangers players in that team now. And as you guys say, Jason Kerr has been absolutely phenomenal for St Johnstone. And the midfield as well, I've got Steve Davis. I think he's just an absolute classy player for somebody of that age to continue just running the games, and he doesn't really miss an awful lot of games for somebody that old either. I mean, even when it's like the European schedules and that, he never really seems to slow down. He's always at every international duty in that as well. And yeah, he's just a proper classy player. And next to him, I've got the person who I believe is the natural heir to Steve Davis, and that's Ali McCann from St Johnstone. I think he very much typifies what Callum Davidson wants to do at that club. He's full of graft, full of energy, but he's also got quality on the ball. He's a very good reader of the game, good passer. And yeah, I think he's another one. We talked about Jason Kerr not having an awful long time at St Johnstone. I'd be very surprised if Ali McCann's there next season as well, because he's done an absolute tremendous season as well. And my next midfielder, I think this is probably the most contentious one of this entire thing. But I like to, give credit to some players in like the kind of lower half who've been very much punching over their weight. And without this player, this team would be down a long time ago. And that's Ross Callaghan for Hamilton. I don't think there's a single player this season who's really been as important to a single team as Ross Callaghan has. 9 goals, 3 assists as well. If it wasn't from him getting those kind of crucial moments for Hamilton, they'd be long gone. I mean, they're still bottom of the table, but I think a lot of that's kind of credit to Callaghan for, keeping them within touch and distance. I mean, he got another goal today. And yeah, for players to, it always kind of reminds me of that season in the Premiership ages ago where I think it was Scott Parker and Charlie Adam were up for Player of the Year because whilst playing for West Ham and Blackpool respectively. West Ham just avoided relegation whilst Blackpool got relegated, but you couldn't deny the impact that they'd had on those teams and how kind of unfortunate they were to be in that situation. But yeah, going from a front three, Martin Boyle, right wing, no brainer. The best player outside of the Old Firm, quite easily. Maybe Scotland have missed a chance there by having him, but I guess at that time he wasn't that player, as you said. He hasn't always been that person with the end product, but he is definitely adding that to his game now. On the opposite flank as well, I went for Ryan Kent. I think he's an absolute tremendous player. He's, again, somebody else has had more goals and assists to his game, and he's just a very exciting player to watch, and he brings so much excitement to that Rangers team. And then through the middle, I've got Kevin Nisbet as well. First season from the Championship, 14 goals so far, 2 assists as well in the top flight. Maybe he has slowed down a wee bit. I don't know if the transfer that he tried to force through in January halted him a wee bit, but yeah, he's sure enough for me to to get into this team, especially ahead of. To be fair, I was tossing that up between him and Morelos, but I thought we've all going to have so many Rangers players. I'll give the edge to Nisbet. But yeah, that's my team for me. No Celtic players. Quite frankly, they don't deserve it.
I thought there would be. We had more debate about our centre midfield options than we really had about our teams of the season. I thought there would be more debate about that, but we're all actually fairly along the same lines, other than 1 or 2.
Well, I'm going to jump in because I'm stunned that both of you have got a blatant cheat in your team. Martin Daly Boyle out there, who's thrown his cell on the ground more times than anybody in the league. No for me. I did consider it, but then I looked at his diving capabilities and I just couldn't put him in there.
To be fair, as a Livingston fan who worshipped one of the greatest divers and buyers of fouls in Ian Russell for 3 years, I can't complain too much about divers. because I used to praise Beanie for it every week. And then the first game he played against us for Queen of the South, when he was shouting for a handball that hit Cole Donaldson in the face, all of a sudden was like, I hate that man. So I know that is a frustration with Martin Boyle, but you can't argue his numbers and things like that this season. I think for me, he's a shoe-in and most folks' team of the year.
I liked your shout out for Callahan, actually, Angus. I get your thinking behind that. I really do. That's not a bad shout. But given where Hamilton are, I totally agree. If it wasn't for him, they'd be long gone. But the team of the season, no for me either. I also like your shout to Ali McCann. I really rate the boy as well. In fact, I think I mentioned him 2 or 3 episodes ago in an episode. I can't remember what we're talking about, but I'd mentioned Ali McCann as a player that I really like. So that's also a good shout. I think it's quite evident that the players we're all picking, are players that have had generally successful seasons. Rangers was a shoe, and they're always. And it'll be very interesting when the official sort of team of the season comes out, because if they do it like they done last season, it's just going to all be Rangers and Celtic players. I think the SPFL really need to have a think about how they're going to do it, because they had a vote on social media, didn't they? And of course, it's just a nonsense, because you're going to get Rangers and Celtic players in regardless of how good or bad a season they've had, because they've got the biggest fan base. So it'll be interesting to see how they do it officially this year, I think.
Well, that's our views. Well, once we release the episode later in the week, you can give us your views on it. If you want to disagree with us, more than likely will. But feel free to give us your team of the season as well later in the week.
That's it for this week's episode of Talk Livi. Thanks again to every single one of you for tuning in, week out. If you can, we'd love to hear your feedback. Either leave us a review on iTunes or simply message us on Twitter, Facebook or Instagram.
As Andy said, we're on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Search Talk Livi to find us. You'll find all the links to our weekly episodes on there as well. You can also find all our episodes, including this one, on all good podcast streaming sites, including iTunes and Spotify. We're also on YouTube, so don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If none of those options suit you, all you have to do is head to our website, talklivipodcast.libsyn.com, where you'll find every single episode that we've done over the last few years.
That's it for this week. Thanks again for tuning in. For now, from all of us here at the official Talk Livi podcast, we hope you have a great week.
Livingston, a love will never die. West Lothian, West Lothian is our battle cry. This is the place from which we hail. Livingston, oh Livingston, it's up to Amberville. Livingston, 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 oh Livingston, oh Livingston, we love it when you score. Livingston, oh Livingston, the Amberville Lions roar. Livingston, oh Livingston, we realize our vision. Livingston, oh Livingston, into the Premier